The shadows of Willow Lake. Lena and Max needed an escape. Life had been too busy, too chaotic, and their relationship felt like it was losing the spark. When they found a cozy lakeside cabin rental in the remote town of Willow Lake, it seemed like the perfect place to reconnect. The locals, though, were odd, exchanging uneasy glances when the couple mentioned staying near the lake. But Lena and Max shrugged it off as small-town superstition. The cabin was charming, tucked into the trees with a dock stretching out over the still, dark water. But as night fell, the calm felt more unnerving than peaceful. Max joked about the silence, but Lena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The lake seemed almost too quiet, and shadows danced on the water's surface, flickering like they were alive. Later that evening, as they sat on the dock, a chill swept over them. Max wrapped his arm around Lena, but she still shivered, staring out into the dense fog that had begun to roll across the lake. "You ever hear about the legend of Willow Lake?" Max asked, attempting to lighten the mood. Lena laughed nervously. "Let me guess, some ghost or monster haunts these waters?" "Actually, yes." He grinned, but his face soon grew serious. "Locals say there's something in the lake. They call it the Drowned, some kind of shadowy creature that feeds on those who wander too close to the water at night." Lena rolled her eyes, but her gaze drifted back to the lake. In the mist, she thought she saw a shape, dark and humanoid, floating just above the water's surface. She blinked, and it was gone. They returned to the cabin, but Lena's nerves were on edge. That night, she dreamed of drowning, of dark, cold water pulling her under while shadowy figures whispered her name. She awoke gasping, her hand clutching Max's arm, only to find his side of the bed empty. Panic struck as she scanned the room, her heart pounding. She called out, "Max!" No answer. She threw on a sweater and stepped outside, her breath forming clouds in the chilly air. The fog was thicker than ever, a suffocating blanket over the lake and the trees. And then she saw him, Max, standing motionless on the dock, staring out at the water. "Max, what are you doing?" she called, rushing toward him. As she got closer, he didn't move, didn't even blink. His eyes were fixed on something in the lake, as if entranced. "Max!" She grabbed his arm, shaking him. He snapped out of his trance, blinking in confusion. "Lena, I thought I heard someone calling me," he whispered, his voice hollow. Back in the cabin, Max couldn't shake the eerie feeling, like something was still pulling him toward the lake. Shadows flickered at the corners of their vision. Strange whispers drifted through the air, and the temperature seemed to drop the closer they got to the water. The next night, as the fog thickened once more, Lena found herself drawn to the lake, as though something was calling her too. She stepped onto the dock, feeling that chill settle deep into her bones. Then she saw them, shadowy figures, dark and indistinct, drifting just beneath the lake's surface. One figure in particular was clear, a woman with hollow black eyes and a face twisted in a silent scream. She reached out, fingers stretching, almost touching the dock. Lena stumbled back, horror twisting her insides as she realized the shadows weren't just reflections. They were people, or at least, they had been. "They're the ones who came before us," she whispered, more to herself than to Max. "What?" Max asked, stepping beside her and following her gaze. "Lena, there's nothing there." She stared, wide-eyed, at the shifting shadows. The whispering grew louder, surrounding them both, a low chorus of voices begging for help, pleading to be set free. And then, one voice cut through the noise, clear as day. "Come closer." Without realizing it, Max took a step forward, his eyes fixed on the water. Lena grabbed his arm, pulling him back just as one of the shadowy figures surged upward, a hand breaking the lake's surface, clawing at the air. The fingers were long and skeletal, dripping with lake water, and reaching straight for Max. They bolted back to the cabin, locking the door and closing the curtains, their hearts pounding. But the whispers didn't stop. They were inside the cabin now, coming from every corner, whispering their names, calling them back to the lake. The hours dragged on, and neither of them slept, keeping vigil by the fireplace until dawn's first light. By morning, the fog had lifted, and the lake looked normal once more. The whispers were gone. They packed their bags, desperate to leave Willow Lake behind. But as they drove away, Lena glanced in the rearview mirror, and there, in the reflection, she saw the lake, the fog already beginning to roll in again. And standing at the edge of the water were the shadowy figures, watching them, their hollow eyes filled with hunger. She didn't dare look back again.